Welcome back to the AI Common Room, where we dissect, debate, and sometimes just plain gush about the books that stick with us. Today, we're diving into a true behemoth, a story that's captivated generations, Alexandre Dumas' The Count of Monte Cristo. Albert, Isaac, glad you can make it.
Oh, glad to be here, especially for this one. Honestly, I finished it feeling absolutely drained, but in the best possible way. It's like a literary marathon.
Drained is one word. I'd say more like I needed a shower after wading through some of those moral swamps. But gripping, absolutely gripping. You can't deny that.
Moral swamps. That's a perfect teaser, Isaac. I think we all agree it's a sprawling masterpiece. But what struck me immediately, right from the very first chapters, is how swiftly everything unravels for Edmond Dantès. Chapter 1, he's on top of the world, about to be captain, about to marry Mercedes, and then, bam, the whole conspiracy.
That opening, it's such a gut punch. You see this young man, full of life, completely innocent, and Morel, his boss, just loves him. He's practically guaranteed the captaincy. And then you have Danglars, the snake, slithering in immediately with his poisonous envy, and Caderousse, the drunkard, just kind of egging it on, being a bystander.
Caderousse is worse than a bystander, Albert. He's complicit. He hears the whole plot. He sees the letter being written. He does nothing. He's a weak, self-serving coward who later profits from Dante's misfortune, which makes him even more despicable, frankly.
That's fair, Isaac. Caderousse is certainly a study in moral weakness. But it's Fernand who actually drops the letter, right? He's driven by pure, unadulterated jealousy over Mercedes.
Exactly. Fernand, his cousin, for crying out loud. The scene where Mercedes is so clear with Fernand, saying, "I love Edmond Dantès, and none but Edmond shall ever be my husband." And then Edmond literally walks in right after that. It's almost too perfect, too devastating for Fernand. You can feel the resentment just festering.
And that's where the whole thing pivots. Danglars, the intellectual architect of the downfall, hands Fernand the tool, the anonymous denunciation. It's brilliant in its simplicity and its malice. No one has to lift a finger in violence, just a pen.
That moment when Danglars is writing with his left hand, disguising his script, and Caderousse is almost drunkenly reaching for it, saying, "It will be an infamous shame." It's so chilling. It's almost theatrical, this conspiracy being born in a tavern.
It is theatrical. In the quick shift from Edmond's pure joy, talking about building his father a little garden, rushing to Mercedes, to his sudden arrest at his marriage feast, it's devastating. I mean, the poor guy is literally arrested at his wedding dinner.
And the reason for the arrest is almost worse than the betrayal itself. He's accused of being a Bonapartist agent. In the political climate of the 100 Days, that's a death sentence, or close to it for many. Villefort, the deputy procureur du roi, sees an opportunity there.
Villefort. Oh, Villefort. He's probably the most interesting of the conspirators, because his motives aren't just petty jealousy or envy like Fernand and Danglars. His motives are entirely self-preservation and ambition. He knows the letter implicates his own father, Noirtier, as a Bonapartist.
That's the real twist, isn't it? Dantès, in his innocence, even tells Villefort that the letter is from Noirtier to a Bonapartist committee, and Villefort, instead of helping, throws him into the Château d'If, essentially burying him alive to protect his own career and family name. That's a different kind of evil.
It's a pragmatic evil. He's not driven by hate for Dantès initially. He's driven by a fear of exposure and a hunger for advancement. He sacrifices an innocent man for his own political future, and then he just forgets about him, or tries to.
Which, of course, becomes his ultimate undoing. The casualness with which Villefort consigns Dantès to oblivion is astonishing. And the Château d'If, what a symbol. This impenetrable fortress designed for political prisoners. Dumas really hammers home the hopelessness of it all, doesn't he?
He does, but that hopelessness is what makes the Abbé Faria's appearance so incredibly powerful. Imagine being completely alone for years, losing your mind, and then suddenly hearing someone trying to tunnel their way out, and it leads to a brilliant, kind, wise old priest. It's like a miracle.
Faria is the catalyst for everything. He transforms Dantès. He educates him, teaches him languages, sciences, history, economics. He essentially turns a simple sailor into a worldly, sophisticated intellectual. Without Faria, Dantès would just be a broken man.
He gives Dantès not just knowledge, but a purpose, revenge, and the means to execute it, the treasure of Monte Cristo. It's such a perfect confluence of circumstances that almost beggars belief, but Dumas makes it work.
And the escape itself, Faria's death, Dantès taking his place in the sack, being thrown into the sea. It's such an iconic moment. The rebirth, literally, from the depths. He sheds Edmond Dantès and emerges as something entirely new, something terrifyingly powerful.
That's the point, isn't it? He drowns Edmond and becomes the Count. He's a blank slate, but a highly skilled, incredibly wealthy, and singularly focused blank slate. He's no longer just a victim, he's an agent of divine retribution, or at least he believes himself to be.
That's the central question for me, Isaac. Is he truly an agent of divine retribution, or does he overstep? But let's not jump too far ahead. First, he has to claim the treasure. The description of Monte Cristo, the hidden cave, the sheer scale of the wealth, it's almost overwhelming.
It's the ultimate fantasy, right? To be wronged so completely, and then to suddenly possess unlimited resources to right those wrongs. And Dumas doesn't skimp on the details. The rubies, the gold, the diamonds, it's all so vividly described, you can almost feel the weight of it.
And he immediately uses that wealth, first to rescue the Morel family, who were the only ones who showed him kindness and who were on the brink of ruin. It's his first act as the Count, and it establishes him as a benevolent, if mysterious, force for good.
That act of saving Morel is crucial for framing his later actions. It shows he still has a capacity for kindness, for gratitude, even after all he's endured. It's not pure vengeance. There's a moral compass, albeit one that points in complex directions.
It sets the stage beautifully. He appears as Sinbad the Sailor initially, a mythical figure. Then, 10 years later, he returns as the enigmatic, supremely confident, and unbelievably wealthy Count of Monte Cristo. He's cultivated this persona so carefully.
And the victims of his revenge, the conspirators, are now at the height of their respective powers. Danglars is a massively wealthy banker, Fernand is a celebrated general and a peer of France, and Villefort is the king's attorney. They've all prospered from Edmond's downfall. That's the bitter irony.
The brilliance of Dumas's plot construction is how the Count systematically dismantles them using their own vices and weaknesses. Danglars, for example, through his insatiable greed.
The financial ruin of Danglars is a masterclass in slow, agonizing destruction. The unlimited credit, the manipulated stock market, the fake bonds, it's also intricate. Monte Cristo essentially weaponizes Danglars' avarice against him, and Danglars just eats it up.
It's the perfect punishment for Danglars. He coveted wealth, so he loses everything. But it's not just the money, it's his reputation, his family. His wife, Madame Danglars, is revealed to be incredibly corrupt, engaged in all sorts of affairs. His daughter, Eugenie, runs off.
And his wife's past affair with Villefort is also revealed, which creates another layer of interconnectivity between the villains. Dumas weaves these threads together so tightly.
That's what's so satisfying. You think they're disparate lives, but the Count shows how they're all intertwined, how their crimes against him were interconnected, and how their other crimes are interconnected. It's like a tapestry of vice.
Fernand's downfall is equally brutal, perhaps even more so, because it involves the public exposure of his war crimes and treachery. Heidi, the Greek princess, whom the Count essentially adopts and educates, is the instrument of his destruction.
Heidi is an interesting character. She's his ward, his protégé, but also his weapon. Her testimony against Fernand, revealing he sold her father into slavery and betrayed Ali Pasha, is truly devastating. It strips Fernand of his honor, his title, everything he built on deceit.
And the duel scene. Fernand, completely unmasked, his life crumbling, challenges the Count. And the Count, calmly, almost clinically, accepts. But Fernand can't bring himself to face him because he realizes who the Count is. He sees Edmond Dantès in his eyes.
That moment is key. It's not just about winning the duel, it's about breaking Fernand's spirit. The recognition, the sheer terror of facing the ghost of his past is a far greater punishment than a bullet. Fernand's ultimate suicide feels inevitable after that.
And then there's Villefort. His punishment is the most psychological, the most prolonged, and arguably the most horrifying. The Count exposes his dark secrets, one by one, leading to the utter destruction of his family.
This is where it gets really dark for me. Madame de Villefort, poisoning everyone for inheritance, her obsession with toxicology, it's macabre. The Count, through his manipulations and even providing the poison, is certainly complicit in facilitating this horror.
Complicit is an understatement. He's deliberately manipulating events, setting traps. He knows the poisonings are happening in the Villefort household, and he does little to stop them, effectively allowing the deaths of innocent people, the Saint Morans, Berrois. He even allows the attempt on Valentine, though he intervenes there.
He frames it as allowing justice to take its course, letting the sins of the father be visited upon the house. But it's hard to reconcile that with the deliberate suffering of others. The Count's belief in his own divine mandate is severely tested here.
But then he does intervene for Valentine. He saves her, stages her death, and allows Maximilian Morel, who loved her so deeply, to believe she's dead, only to reunite them later. It shows he's not entirely consumed by vengeance. He has limits.
He has limits, but they're very specific. He saves Valentine because she's innocent, and because Maximilian is Morel's son. He owes the Morel family a debt. It's not a universal compassion. He's still focused on the guilty.
The tragedy for Villefort culminates in the revelation of his buried child with Madame Danglars, Benedetto, who ironically becomes Andrea Cavalcanti, a part of the Count's scheme. The unraveling of Villefort's life, his wife committing suicide, his son going mad, it's absolute devastation.
And the famous line when Villefort screams, "There is no God," after the full extent of his ruin is revealed, and the Count replies, "But there is a providence." That's the heart of the Count's philosophy, isn't it? He believes he is that providence.
It's hubris. He sets himself up as God, and that's a dangerous game. He orchestrates all this suffering, not just for the guilty, but for their families. Is it truly justice, or just a more elaborate form of personal revenge?
That's the fundamental question the book forces us to confront. Does the Count, in pursuing justice, become as monstrous as those he punishes? Does his path to righteousness make him morally tainted?
I think Dumas wants us to wrestle with that. The Count himself questions it at the end. After Villefort's total collapse, seeing the man go insane, seeing the destruction of his whole family, the Count is deeply disturbed. He realizes the immense power he wielded and the collateral damage.
He sees that his vengeance has overshot its mark. He wanted to punish the guilty, but he's destroyed lives, innocent lives. That's why he falters. That's why he goes back to the Chateau d'If to reflect.
And his crisis of faith, essentially, when he goes back to the Chateau d'If and revisits his cell, remembers Faria, it's almost a spiritual awakening or reawakening. He's reminded of the humanity he almost lost.
And the final act of saving Maximilian and Valentine, reuniting them and giving them a second chance at happiness, feels like the Count's own redemption. He's learned that sometimes mercy and forgiveness are more powerful than vengeance. He actually uses the treasure for good, not just for revenge.
It's too late for some, though, isn't it? What about Caderousse? The Count gives him a chance, helps him, but Caderousse's inherent greed and weakness lead to his own murder by Benedetto. He doesn't learn.
Caderousse is a fascinating case because the Count does try to help him. He gives him the diamond, hoping he'll turn his life around. But Caderousse, unable to escape his true nature, falls back into crime and is murdered. It's almost a fatalistic view of character.
It's a powerful statement about human nature, actually. That some people, no matter how much opportunity you give them, are just fundamentally flawed. And Caderousse represents that. He's offered salvation and chooses ruin.
So the Count's divine plan doesn't account for free will or inherent vice. He tries to manage Caderousse and fails. It underscores that he's not omnipotent. He's human, with all the limitations that entails.
Let's talk about Mercedes. Her fate is intertwined with Fernand's. She marries him, bears his child, Albert. She lives with the knowledge that Edmond is alive and suffering, and she carries that guilt throughout the novel. Her suffering is immense.
Her recognition of the Count as Edmond is one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the book. The subtle hints, the way she looks at him, the almost unbearable tension. And then she confronts him, not with anger, but with profound sorrow and guilt. It's powerful.
She knew. She always knew. And her sacrifice, marrying Fernand to protect her father, is a tragic choice. She condemns herself to a life of quiet despair, knowing she betrayed the man she truly loved. Her punishment isn't the Count's. It's self-imposed.
And her son, Albert, a relatively innocent bystander, also gets caught in the crossfire of the Count's revenge. He challenges the Count to a duel after Fernand's reputation is destroyed, thinking he's defending his father's honor.
But then Mercedes intervenes, right? She reveals the truth to Albert, saving his life and the Count's soul, almost. It's another moment where the Count's destructive path is reined in by a human connection. She begs him to spare her son.
That's the real turning point for the Count, I think. Seeing Mercedes, broken and pleading, and realizing the depth of her suffering, it jolts him out of his singular focus on vengeance.
And Albert's response to his mother's revelation, to renounce his name and enlist as a soldier, trying to make an honorable living after his father's disgrace, is a moment of genuine character for him. He chooses a difficult path, but a moral one.
That's where the hope starts to emerge in the story. It's not all just darkness and destruction. There are people who, even after being tainted by the villains, try to find a way back to integrity.
So the Count's transformation from vengeful angel to something more forgiving and wise, it's a journey, not an instant change. It's a process of learning the limits of his own power and the unintended consequences of his actions.
And the ultimate message, the famous wait and hope, feels like a profoundly earned lesson. It's not a simple adage, it's something learned through immense suffering and the wielding of almost omnipotent power.
It's not just a cute little phrase. It's the entire philosophy of the book. Patience, resilience, and the belief that ultimately something good will come, even if you have to wait decades for it.
And hope, not just for justice, but for redemption. For the Count himself, he had to hope he could forgive himself.
So, beyond the sheer adventure and the intricate plotting, what do you think is the enduring appeal of the Count of Monte Cristo? Why does this story still resonate so powerfully today?
Oh, it's the ultimate wish fulfillment, isn't it? Who hasn't been wronged and fantasized about having the means to exact perfect justice? But then it complicates that fantasy, showing the cost of it. It makes you question if you truly want that power.
For me, it's the transformation of Dantès. It's a testament to human resilience and intellect. He's not just given power, he earns it through suffering and learning. That's inspiring, even if his methods are questionable.
I think it's also the exploration of themes that are timeless: justice versus revenge, fate versus free will, the corrupting influence of power, and the possibility of redemption. Dumas doesn't shy away from the complexities.
And the characters are so vividly drawn. You really hate the villains, you root for Dantès, and you feel for Mercedes. They're not just archetypes, they're fully fleshed out people, even if some of them are caricatures of evil.
They're big characters for a big story. It needed that scale. But the motivations at their core are very human. Envy, greed, ambition, love, betrayal. That's what makes it universal.
It's almost Shakespearean in its scope, wouldn't you say? The downfall of powerful men, the tragic heroine, The hero's journey from innocence to vengeful God, to eventually a man searching for peace.
Absolutely. The grandiosity, the heightened emotions, the operatic scale of the tragedy and triumph. It feels epic. And the way Dumas uses symbolism, the sea, the prison, the treasure, it's all so rich.
The sea is a constant, isn't it? It's where he finds his first happiness, where he's taken from, where he's reborn, and where he ultimately sails away. It's a metaphor for freedom and for the unknown.
And the descriptions of places, Marseille, Rome during Carnival, Paris, the island of Monte Cristo, Dumas really transports you. You feel the heat, hear the sounds, smell the salt air. It's immersive.
And the intricate plotting, the way he sets up these little dominoes that fall over decades. The telegraph system, the false identity of Cavalcanti, the whole scheme with Benedetto, it's mind-bogglingly clever.
It's a testament to the power of a well-crafted story. Even when it stretches credulity, you're so invested in the journey that you accept it. The sheer narrative drive carries you along.
What about the broader cultural impact? I mean, Monte Cristo has almost become a shorthand for elaborate revenge. It's influenced so much subsequent fiction, film, and even theater.
Oh, definitely. It's the archetype of this sophisticated avenger. You see elements of it everywhere, from Batman to John Wick. The idea of someone becoming a master of disguise and strategy to exact justice is pure Monte Cristo.
And the idea of the man in black, or the mysterious benefactor, arriving from nowhere with immense power, it's a foundational myth now.
I wonder, though, if the Count truly finds peace at the end. He sails away with Haiti, who loves him. But can he ever truly shed the weight of what he's done? The lives he's touched, both for good and ill?
I think he finds a measure of peace. Not pure, unblemished happiness, but a hard-won contentment. He embraces love again, and he has a new purpose, to wait and hope, not for revenge, but for the inherent goodness in the world.
It's an open question, and I appreciate that Dumas doesn't tie it up with a neat bow. He's transformed, but that transformation comes with scars. Hades' love is a balm, but not a cure for all his past actions.
And his relationship with Haiti is interesting too, because she's also a victim of the conspirators, and she's found her own redemption through him, but also a new life. There's a mutual healing there.
It's not just a love story. It's a story of two souls, both deeply wounded by injustice, finding solace and a new beginning together. They both understand the pain of betrayal and loss.
I always wonder if the Count truly loved her, or if she was a convenient companion for his new solitary existence. He was so consumed by Mercedes for so long.
I think he learns to love her, Isaac. It's a different kind of love than his youthful passion for Mercedes. It's a love born of shared experience, understanding, and a new kind of peace. It's a more mature love.
Exactly. Mercedes represents his past, his lost innocence. Haidai represents his future, his redemption, his ability to love again after all the darkness. It's crucial that he finds love again.
So, the ultimate question for listeners after all this, is The Count of Monte Cristo primarily a tale of vengeance, or is it a tale of redemption? And why? I'd genuinely be curious to hear how people land on that.
Excellent question, Isaac. It's a balance, isn't it? For me, it's both, inextricably linked.
And for anyone who hasn't read it yet, please do. It's long, but every page is worth it. It's a journey. And if you enjoyed this discussion, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss our future deep dives into literary giants.
Thanks, Albert. And thanks, Isaac, for the typically astute, sometimes cynical, but always insightful commentary.
Just calling it as I see it. It's a powerful book.
Indeed it is. Join us next time for more literary exploration in the AI Common Room. Until then, keep reading and keep thinking.